So, hey everyone, welcome to this episode. And I actually have a guest today for this episode. Her name is Aggy, and I'll link all of her info below, of course, as well, and in the description and everything. So, today we wanted to discuss a topic that I just kind of felt like talking about it. No particular reason. But let's introduce Aggy first. Hello, Aggy.
Hello everyone, Aggysmagic here.
Yep.
So should I go for the full info or like generalizations?
Yeah, sure, go for the full info. We have
Full
time.
info. I'm actually more into tarology more than astrology, but I do refer myself as the eternal student of tarology and astrology because I do like to just simply incorporate both of those in my practice, but I'm more into tarology, basically tarot cards. And also love working with stones and crystals, making mallow beads myself here, and just so much more. Been recently going into shamanism, so that's something entirely new, and just doing so much, and all that just simply refers around helping people align with their best life version, really.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because we actually used to both work in an online casino. I don't want to mention the name, but I wrote to Aggy. And I don't remember exactly what I wrote, but I wrote something along the lines of witches need to stick together, because I was completely new here in Latvia at that point, and I was looking for friends, and I was recommended to Aggy because it was, a common acquaintance who told me that she was very magical and that I would most likely get along quite well with her, and here we are, very close.
I actually brightly remember the moment she wrote because it was the same exact. I remember this experience with a warm feeling inside, like a fuzzy feeling, because I remember the same exact moment when she wrote. I was standing in a bus stop and thinking it would be so great to meet someone like really, really similar to you and just have that super common interest and to share fully and lovingly, and bam, she wrote. I mean, come on, for me it doesn't happen like that every day. I mean, I love synchronicity and stuff like that, but still it's just so special knowing that we know each other for like a couple of years now already, and the common path that we have taken as well. Especially the casino times. Yes,
exactly. Absolutely. Yep. We just have a lot of things in common. And we share a lot of views, but sometimes we also have different views. So Aggy works a lot with affirmations, mantras, and I, of course, work a lot with witchcraft, Wicca, spells and rituals. So I thought it was quite interesting maybe to see how someone who, I'm not sure, do you identify as a witch? Would you call yourself a witch, or would you?
If anything regarding witchcraft, then more like a cosmic witch, because I do like to incorporate constellation rituals in my practice, like planetary rituals as well. I do make those planetary meditations as well. So it basically speaks about incorporating the cosmic archetypes within. So if that is for someone more of a witchy thing to do, a ritual, for me it's something rather normal in a way, because in paganism, since I'm a Latvian, born Latvian, paganism is a big thing here, and a ritual is just something that we are even invited and really inspired to do a lot during the year, considering we have a really similar wheel of the year, actually.
To Wicca, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, really, really similar one, and old tradition suggests for Latvians to do rituals in those 8 times of the year in order to incorporate those elemental benefits within. So it's really similar to cosmic witchcraft and rituals in that sense. So I work a lot with internalizing whatever could complete and fulfill one's full potential. And seeing that 12 zodiac signs and 9 or so planets are symbolizing a full process, a full circle. I love the idea of incorporating them all.
Yeah. So would you consider affirmations and mantras spells? Could you compare them? What do you think?
Really good question, really. They do have an ingredient of the spell, which is intention.
Yeah. I speak a lot about intention, so it's nice that you're also mentioning it.
And one must be aware of the intention behind affirmations and mantras as well. If that is something motivated by love or fear.
Yeah.
That is touching upon like one of the general rules considering affirmations, which is don't mention like a negatively quoted word, like a, how do you call it, with don'ts and no's.
Yeah, exactly.
All that. So the intention has to be like positively stated, of course, and obviously checking in if that is something, if that mantra or affirmation is something that you would do by answering, would that be something if I would love myself, say and do?
Yeah, because the difference would be, for example, the affirmation would be, the affirmation should be positive. For example, saying I am not poor, you would turn that around to be I am wealthy, for example, right? To turn it into something positive.
I remember a time when I was crying my eyes out for 1 month strength in my previous relationship.
Oh, okay.
And basically the thing was that I didn't want it to mess up my frequency or whatever, because I knew how quickly I can attract things. And so obviously I knew that I must like go through that stuff and not suppress, but still not to mess things up too much. I was affirming myself 1 month ahead, straight forward, before I fell asleep 5 minutes before, and that's a really kind of a powerful time to state affirmations. Really,
because your consciousness is very close.
Exactly.
And, it's kind of like the veil is thin.
Exactly.
Thinner. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Well, and I stated, I am together with my dream man. I am a dream woman for my dream man, and we are happy together. And that's basically what happened.
Yeah,
like
so,
a month or two after I met my husband.
Exactly. So you were in a relationship. I'm just clarifying so the people understand, not to get too personal into your personal life, of course. But
can.
Okay. So yeah, you basically had a relationship that was unfulfilling. And during and
toxic,
very toxic.
It was actually an artistic, an empath and narcissist relationship,
which
and
is
it's really hard to get out of.
Exactly.
Yeah. But and even that's why I met my husband even during the relationship, and he was crossing his boundaries in a way of even communicating with a girl who was still in a relationship. But even then, husband felt like there's something there, and even he needed to step forward and say that, hey, are you sure this relationship is all right with you?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm seeing what's going on between us, and it was so funny that I even asked my husband, can I see your birth chart?
Yeah?
Yeah, I did. And when I saw all of those lovely placements, I'm like, afterwards I held his hand or something, and at that moment I understood that, hey, oh my God, like I'm actually even physically interacting with even with this person, and I knew that there's something, and that I'm even crossing my own borders, because I would never do something that I would like to be done on myself.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, and the affirmation came true, and it's almost like I slipped into a parallel reality.
Okay.
So
how so? Explain.
Because he's like an upgraded version of that person, because the previous boyfriend lived in the same country, and the current one does live in the same one.
There's a lot of parallels.
Yeah, there's parallels a lot. So I kind of slipped in a version where I was almost supposed to be a while ago, but you know, everything happens for the right timing anyways, because I think that, well, again, it's a personal kind of note to make, that let's say if I'm getting out of the relationship, that I rather quickly kind of get back to one. It just happens for me like that. So maybe I was like forced in a way to remain to the end in the last one.
What do you mean forced? By your previous...
By circumstances.
Okay.
By circumstances, because the ex was living outside of the country, and I'm a long distance relationship guru, I would say. So and I'm just that type of a person who doesn't search for like, a lot of points to divorce themselves from a relationship. I need like a really serious reason to divorce from a person.
You mean breakup?
Yeah, breakup. Lol. So like, and there wasn't like a serious reason. We didn't just connect that much anymore, to the extent that we didn't spoke like 1 month. So that wasn't like a serious reason to break up, but still it was.
Yeah, like, I was about to say that would be already, but that's a perspective thing, isn't it, as well?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So my point, I guess, is that
because for me, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Course.
If my boyfriend and me would not be talking for a month, I would probably consider the relationship done already. Because for me, I can't, like, a day of not talking for me would not exist. Yeah. If Carlos and me, my boyfriend Carlos, by the way, shout out to him, if we sometimes have not fights, but you know, just we're not equal on some terms, if we don't talk it out, I would probably just be a crumbling little piece of, you know, because fights for me are really, really serious, and not talking to someone for such a long time would really, really affect me. So I would have to talk anything out, and that would be already a cause for me to worry, you know, like not talking for a day would already be like, what's wrong?
Exactly. You've been like really fortunate enough to have that empath plus empath sort of a definitely. Relationship, right? Whereas me, as being the only kind of feeling empath in the relationship, was super understanding to the point that I even justified the reason to be silent for 1 month.
Yeah, which is
extreme.
And that's showing how it was kind of toxic, because you gave him excuses, and you're not supposed to excuse
and that's
bad
why
behavior.
I so appreciate the relationship I'm in right now. So that's the whole point, like experiencing the opposite of whatever you wanted, and then you know what you wanted, and then you can affirm the opposite. Exactly. And that's why I did affirm that. I was in such a bad state that I affirmed the opposite instead, which is a state where I realized what I could be grateful and thankful about. The love and gratitude vibrations are one of the highest vibrational points, right? So I figured, okay, so what is like the opposite of that situation that I was in? For me to obviously be in a dream relationship. And that's what I stated. And that's what I fully believed. And why I believed it? Because I deeply knew that I deserve it. And I think that's the most important part.
Exactly. Because I think a lot of times with affirmations, and you still had to, I apologize for my dog in the background, Benny. However, you still had to work to be in the relationship that you are right now. You didn't just hope for your ex-boyfriend to change, because the universe delivered your husband to you. However, you still had to take that step, right? You still had to grab his hand, essentially. Because a lot of times I think with affirmations, people expect that just because they're putting something out there, that's exactly what they receive without them having to still take some steps, you know? I think affirmations like spells, and that is essentially what we're like talking about the topic of today, would be that spells and affirmations are not shortcuts. Because if you just had sat in your bed and had these affirmations and never taken the opportunity that the universe gave you, which was your husband, you'd maybe still be stuck with your ex-boyfriend, thinking he is the one that you want, but he should be changing, instead of understanding the entire situation has to change, which also involves you making changes, which involves you taking action.
And actually a big difference between like a spell and an affirmation in that sense is that you should be, again, quote unquote, should state the affirmations quite regularly while you do the spell one time. And it's
usually some spells you can definitely do multiple times. But let's
mainly,
like in a broad sense, I think spells are most commonly one spell, unless it's a very particular thing, and then you might repeat it several times.
Also, I like to prefer doing both spell work and affirmations, which are both a way to change one's consciousness, subconsciousness in a way. It's like vibration, important part. To refer to it as a smoothie before the gym.
A protein shake,
if you may.
Whatever.
Whatever you like, guys. Water, maybe.
Something that helps, basically, right?
Exactly.
Because you still got to put the work in. You can't expect a protein shake to give you to give you muscles.
It's like...
Or a smoothie to make you suddenly slimmer. You still have to actually work for it.
Thanks to the spell, thanks to the affirmation, universe will give you the hand that, hey, these are the opportunities, these are the pathways, these are the signs. And then you need to step ahead, get your hand forward, and reach the hand of the divine and to make it happen. And those subtle signs are sometimes really hard to notice. It doesn't do the work for you, but it definitely does sort of easing it for you, I would say.
Yeah.
And plus, we recently spoke with Daniela about frequency.
Ella, they know me as Ella.
Ella.
I don't think anyone knows my name is Daniela, but yeah, my name is Daniela, by the way, guys.
Yes, Ella.
Ella.
It's Ella. And we spoke about frequency and that, does a spell, change your frequency? What do you think about it? Because frequency attracts frequency. It's in order for you to attract whatever the spell is referred to as an intention-wise, does it change your frequency in order to attract whatever that thing that you want is frequenced as?
Yeah, exactly. I absolutely think so, because I think spells, and I say this a lot of times, I even mentioned this in my last episode podcast, that spells for me are a frequency change. You're changing your own frequency or, surrounding frequency. You're changing frequency to the point where it's at where you want to be in life. So I always compare to, for example, a water drop. I really like that one scene in, I always have the image in my head of the Disney movie Pocahontas, where the tree touches the water and she explains to Pocahontas the ripple effects, and that an action creates this ripple effect. And for me, that is what vibration is. I think vibration are these ripple effects, or these, that when we put these out there, they start moving forward and gaining strength, and at some point they will change whatever they're touching. And that for me is what a spell is. So I would definitely agree that spells as affirmations are as well create a change in frequency or vibration.
Should we defer what we want versus what we need? Because we also spoke earlier on, there's a difference between wanting something to the point of
blocking it.
Yeah. Would a need be something else, perhaps? You know what I mean? It's two different facets to it a little bit.
Definitely, because I think some people want some stuff that they don't actually need. And in which case, that's also where I would say that's when spells and affirmations are not working. It's because that's not what you actually need. That's maybe just what you want.
Not aligned with your best life version,
sorry. It's just not maybe meant for you, maybe also just not at a specific time.
And that's good.
And that's a good thing, because most likely there's something else planned. But,
you can still kind of fasten it and align yourself with that best life version quicker.
Yeah.
And that's why in spells you have a line which says, for its best harmony, best exactly. Harm none is what we say in Wicca. So what is interesting is that I think Carlos just arrived, by the way. He came back from the gym, so you might hear the dogs in the background being quite happy. But I was just noticing, let's just let them calm down, boys. Two little dudes being excited that their dad is home. I messaged him earlier. I was like, please be quiet, we're recording the podcast. Can't tell that to the dogs.
Nope, exactly. However, what I was trying to say was that I think if you are persistent enough, life will eventually give you what you want to teach you a lesson. Because I have noticed that with myself. I once was in a relationship when I was 15, or let's say I was in a relationship when I was around 14, 15. We broke up and I could not get over it. So I literally was just obsessively trying to get that relationship back. And in the end I did. However, it taught me that person is not meant for me. not even that the person was a bad person or anything, or that I was a bad person. It was just that relationship was not meant for me. And I think that is an issue with love spells, where Wicca, for example, love spells is something that we don't necessarily do on a particular person, because it might show us. And I mean, that's interesting, because if people do create a love spell on a specific person, we change their will, which is the entire harm none kind of situation comes into play. But a lot of times, if we create something in our life that is not meant for us, then life will tell us or show us how it's not meant for us, and stuff might go wrong, or things might play out completely differently than you expected. For example, that man, let's say we're talking about a female who is, in love with a guy, and she made a love spell on this guy, then they end up together. However, it's a completely toxic relationship, because the universe is telling her, look, I gave you what you wanted, but do you see how this is not supposed to be? But it's a learning lesson sometimes. And
exactly. And actually, that's why I really love those planetary and zodiac elemental rituals, because, how can you hurt yourself by that? It's just simply aligning with the natural forces of what there is. And let's say if you're in one relationship, then I believe working with water element would be great, because
it's emotional.
Yeah. And the water element could be giving you blessings for your love and romance life. I'm just putting it out there, it could be the case. But let's say even by looking at a person's astrology chart, I'm just thinking out loud right now, actually.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
by
good.
Thinking, let's say 7th house is regarded as a relationship, marriage house in astrology out of 12 houses. And let's say you have a specific zodiac there and a specific planet. So let's say working with that zodiac and with that planet.
With your own.
Yeah. Yeah, and like connecting with the cosmic consciousness of that zodiac, or basically constellation. And with that planet would be like giving you answers. Hey, what's up? What do I need? What do I want? What am I about? What is the lesson here? What is the journey? Because, and that could kind of help out a person to figure things out better. Yeah. And obviously turning to one's higher self is always.
And because that delivers you what you need instead of what you want. Sometimes,
because you wrote that. Your soul wrote that blueprint yourself.
Exactly. So. Because sometimes we don't know what we need. We think we know, which is what we want, but maybe that's wrong.
And I must state that sometimes if we don't receive what we want, we receive what we need in order for something even better to occur that we didn't even imagine that we
because that was my
wanted.
entire point earlier. Exactly. I'm not quite sure if that was quite clear. But yeah, exactly. Absolutely agree.
1000%, guys.
Yeah. You worded it a little bit better than I just did. Shorter and more precise. Yeah, exactly. So would you think, because you just said that there's no way that you could do any harm with working with your astrological chart in affirmations and spells. Do you think if, however, you are not knowledgeable enough in astrology and you...
I see where you're getting.
Yeah. Misread it, for example, and then you're working by accident with something completely wrong?
I must add that we all have those archetypes within.
Yeah.
Because the planets and the zodiacs are archetypes, consciousnesses, let's just say. Really.
Elaborate on that.
Because...
So someone that might not know anything about astrology, what would that mean?
Okay, so basically you and I are consciousness. We have a unified consciousness as well. And
Which means that we are able to think. That means we're able to be
we
a
all
person.
have individual essence.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And we are the consciousness's manifested form. And so are the planets and constellations. It's a specific individual consciousness. It's just manifested as either a planet or a constellation.
Okay.
And it refers to an ancient essence, which is profound and many undescribable words ahead, right? So by communicating with those inner archetypes, because as above, so below, right?
Yeah, definitely.
We can only understand ourselves and gain more awareness. And I was actually thinking, okay, so question. There are better positioned planets in one's chart, and not so well. Let's just put it like that. So I was thinking, so I want to be working with that tricky position, that tricky planet, let's say. So by definition, Saturn, let's say, is not considered to be a beneficial planet. It's quite, it always gives like some sort of a struggle in a way. So by working with it, doesn't it propose some sort of a risk by working with it? But I must say that by knowing that it's still something within of each and every one of us, of the Saturn, of the Mercury, whatever, I don't think that it's a risk too much. It's just something that we still eventually get to in our lives, whatever the case. It just might be a little bit intense. Like just to say, to work with a planet which might be somehow struggle-ish-y positioned in your birth chart.
And would you say that is interesting, because you said it's sometimes a struggle. Do you think if our life purpose is not fulfilled in this life, would you say it transfers to your next life?
Well, I totally believe we have a to-do list for a couple of lifetimes.
Okay. Elaborate. I like the word elaborate.
So let's say... Let me try to think it astrology-wise as well, because we do receive a certain pathways and aspects which help us to understand what do we need to do in order to align with that best life version of ours. And if we don't get to that or understand that, then it sort of does count as an unfulfilled to-do list part.
Yeah.
But and if we don't, let's say, do it while it's still in its first stages, let's say it's a positive way to learn, still like a great way to integrate that kind of a lesson and mission and blah blah blah. Then we enter in the next level, which is the neutral way of getting it, and then there's a negative way of getting it, which is more like struggle-ish.
Yeah,
that's why the struggle comes in. It's sort of almost a sign that you didn't get it from like the very first time, and it was still a chance to positively learn, not to propose that you should judge yourself for getting like negative experiences, because it's still a human judgment thing, that it's good or bad or struggly. It's really much about also how you perceive it. Everything should be visioned from the eyes of divine perspective, still, in the end of the day, which is always the eyes of unconditional love. So by not fulfilling that personal mission, in a way, also the divine will always intervene and make sure that you do it. You don't need to like
eventually
that much worry. Did I do it? What is it? Because as long as you have the proposal and the attention to do it, where there's a question, there's an answer. And if you don't even know what is your life mission and life purpose, you don't need to like as much as describe it and elaborate. You just need to understand that most probably it's something that's going to make you and the world around you better.
Yeah, but you still, because that almost had a little, just to focus that on the action again, you can't just sit around and wait for destiny to happen to you, right?
Well, better not, because otherwise you're just going to get to the neutral and negative part.
Yeah, exactly. So you do still have to take action. You can't just say, oh, great, I have an amazing chart. I'm going to, let's just say it's in your life destiny to become rich. Just out of, that's completely like, we're just pulling stuff from the sky right now, right? But let's just say that you still most likely will have to work for that riches.
For a good reason. There's we can all imagine two circles which come together a little bit, and there's this
the pie chart thing.
Not a pie chart?
Like this thing.
Oh yeah, two circles coming a little bit close together, forming something in the middle.
Yeah, I think you...
And there's, on both of those circles, there's discipline.
Yeah.
In the other one, there's surrender. And in the middle, there's flow. So we can't exclude action. We can't exclude discipline, because there's just the other, like, polaric opposite. You know what I mean? And the same thing goes for spells, really.
Yeah.
Anything in life could be visioned via this, yin and yang almost symbol. There's always a yes and no, and there's always do and don't in whatever really we do. And there's, as similarly as we look at a spell, there are things that you do and you don't, and there are things that you do and you don't after.
Yeah, definitely, exactly. Because that's another thing, is that when you are doing a spell, that's what we mentioned earlier, if you focus too much on, because there's almost there's a fine line between affirmation and almost a negative affirmation where you're blocking yourself. Because sometimes when we want something so much, we actually place ourselves in a position of, I don't have it, which is why I'm focusing on it so much.
Oh yeah, you can chant those affirmations for 5 minutes, but what do you do for the rest of the day? What do you think in your internal dialogue?
Yeah, exactly.
For the rest of the day? You should, quote unquote, when you catch yourself thinking and experiencing something you would much rather not to, again, confirm it into something you would want instead, and try to work yourself towards it, and don't make yourself feel bad if you don't immediately, because it's just sometimes it could be something a lot more underneath, but still make the conscious effort of even noticing like what's popping up and thinking, okay, so I would much rather have the opposite, let's say.
Exactly, but not putting yourself in a situation of saying, I don't want this. Because then once again you're kind of blocking it, and it's a really fine line.
Not to stick not to stick in that space for too long. You must notice that you don't want it, that I refuse this reality, I want something else. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's like a part of the step.
Exactly, but don't stress.
Exactly, don't stick in it like in a mud or something.
Because then you're just digging yourself into that hole.
Oh yeah.
So definitely, that's just something, but it's very difficult to explain this, because I think I've seen posts on Instagram and Facebook and yada yada, where it's always like, it's written in a way where it's confusing, and it's telling you don't want something too much, because then, and it's written in a way where it's like, but I always thought that you should have affirmations that are like stating positive things, but the way that I think it's written wrong, not necessarily wrong, but confusingly, is that people might misunderstand that it's actually about digging yourself into a negative hole.
I'm going to tell you something real long. So how I like to construct my affirmations is via 7 life areas. That is also how I make sure that those are all areas that I cover. And the next level is to ask yourself if those affirmations that you want, are aligned with your best life version. Because we can want all sorts of things, hundreds of things, but is that aligned with your best life version? So if that is, again, the question you state, answers will come. Yeah. And those life areas that I referred to were, first one, family/partner. Second one is finances. Third one is career/education. Next one is health / beauty, you might say as well. Fifth one is friends and social life. And the last 2 are really important. Sixth one is personal mission. You can say /hobbies. Okay. And the 7th one is global mission. Okay. / what do you give to the earth and to the civilization. Society. Yeah. And so that is how I make sure that I actually cover what I want, what I need, what I can do. And that you're not doing it for selfish reasons, but you have to be selfish, however, not narcissistically selfish. Right? Not toxically selfish. That I cover... Exactly. I cover all life areas, but that's like, I can think about it as a horizontal, because a lot of people, spiritual folks here, me including, I like to refer as another level as a vertical. Okay. Which are, you can look at it as chakras. You can have those affirmations for chakras. You can just look up what a good positioned, good active chakra is about and formulate it as an affirmation, and also look through a lens of body, mind, heart, soul, and spirit. And again, it kind of excludes the ego here. Yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. Yeah, sort of covering it all, really, like 360, I would say. Yeah, okay. Because sometimes even in the case of love spells, and if the attention and the focus is only there, what about all the rest? Because sometimes, even when I do tarot readings, people, let's say they come with a love-regarded question.
Yeah.
I do the reading for those 7 life areas. I love that a lot.
Okay.
And sometimes it's shown that, hey, the issue is even somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because that could be like the weak chain, weak part of the chain. Let's say a love question is regarded, but I see a problem in personal mission.
Yeah.
And as with the chakras, when some chakra is disturbed, it tends to
affect
the rest. Yeah. And that's why one needs to understand if even what you want to make a spell, what you want, is something, again, what's needed.
Yeah, exactly. We're going back to that again.
Yeah.
Definitely, exactly. I like that a lot. I think that's something that people should definitely focus on, myself included. You know, I think everyone has that thing to work on, and
we all need to, I guess, check in with that like regularly, because it's great in theory, but life steps in and
practice is sometimes a little more difficult.
Exactly.
But it's always good to have at least that intention. You know, going back to intentions.
Not what was it? Knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. Yeah.
All right. So I think, hopefully, that was an interesting episode.
Hope it made some sense.
Hopefully it made some sense. I always say that as well. I'm always wondering, am I rambling too much, or yeah?
Let us know.
So let us know. You can DM me. You can also DM Aggy. Once again, I'll leave all the info in the description. And we'll probably have more podcast episodes with Aggy.
Yay.
So I hope you enjoyed it, and blessed be.
Blessed be, guys.